Everyone, welcome this afternoon. I want to talk about connecting with people. And have you ever had a conversation where you feel like there's a disconnect? Maybe there's a war between the two each other. I might need to get some new props. These markers, though, they kind of work. You know, the red, the blue. Which one do you want, Neo? The red or the blue pill? Anyways, what happens is that communication breakdowns occur, and two ideals in schools of thoughts that actually work together to support each other, kind of like police lights right there, are opposed because of a lack of communication. And so because of this, there is usually clash, errors, people misunderstand each other, misunderstandings. And the power of language is what allows us to connect. It bridges the gap between the two that are opposed. And so when you learn to communicate, you learn to use your words, you learn to communicate directly, we can connect two opposing ideals together and come up with a unique thought, a unique dialogue that maybe marries the two together and possibly is better than either of the two separately. Unfortunately, this does not happen very often in our culture, and it's very sad. We see a lot of the greatest, brightest minds communicating with each other. We see a lot of leaders communicating, and many times leaders clash, and yet everybody else is just either waiting to hear from somebody else what they should do, take orders, or not communicating directly. And so I want to encourage you with is to press into growing and learning how to use language and your communication to reach people. Listen, the number one reason that if you're building a business that you're not selling is because of how you are communicating, both non-verbally, visually, audibly, with the words, the written words, with people to connect with the thoughts that you have. And so what happens is when somebody's watching you, say on a video like you are right now, they'll hear you, but they're running it through the filter of what they think you're saying, of what they think you mean. And yet you, on the other side, communicating only have the filter of what you think they think you're saying. And there's a disconnect of that. And so the power is asking questions, communicating back and forth, realizing that, we're all made with different unique talent, skills, and abilities, and that coming together with mutual respect to then communicate and ask questions so that there's no misunderstanding, so that there's no assumptions, helps us grow together. And when we can come together commonly and communicate with the power of language, nothing's impossible for two people or more to come together. Now, there's different languages that exist. There's different languages on the planet. And even if you're in the United States of America, that's where I live, or you're in a different English-speaking country, you're probably watching this because you at least understand the English language. There's still disconnect between what I say about something. The English language has the same words for 5 different meanings, and there's a disconnect between what I mean about something and what you do, and maybe the person that you're talking to in your business versus the other person. And that's where that clash is not using language to connect the dots together, to not ask the questions to understand how the other person sees something, and then connect with language together to help as a whole, instead of just proving I'm right, you're wrong, connecting on a level that shows respect and honor for each other to grow together and reach a common goal. I believe, at least if in this country that I live in, many of us, and your sphere of influence, let's just do that. Let's just use your personal sphere of influence as an example, because this is a universal right here. The people around you that you know, that you talk to, that you communicate on a daily basis. You personally, your sphere of influence is not mine. It's actually very different. And so those that you communicate with, it's important to learn to be able to understand the language of those that you communicate with, not just prove that you know what you're talking about, but to listen, to comprehend, and then to communicate back and forth to grow together. If you're in a sphere of influence, I would bet you that most of you, the people in your sphere of influence, in your circle, have a few common goals together. And so if we can communicate in a way to come together with unity, nothing is impossible in that way. So learn to use the power of language, learn to use communication to reach your goals, and nothing will be impossible with you and those that you partner with. Grow your life, everybody. We'll talk soon. Whoops, let's turn this off.